Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the vast expanse of your remaining years. The wind carries whispers of all the things you've never done, all the boundaries you've never crossed, all the freedoms you've never claimed. But here's the paradox that will shatter everything you thought you knew about liberation. The very walls you've spent decades trying to tear down might be the keys to your ultimate freedom. Consider Sarah at 67, who discovered that her inability to say no wasn't freedom, it was imprisonment. Or Marcus at 72, who realized that his endless pursuit of choices had left him paralyzed, drowning in possibilities but starving for meaning. These aren't isolated cases. They're symptoms of a profound misunderstanding that has plagued human consciousness for centuries. What if everything you've been taught about freedom is backwards? What if the secret to liberation isn't found in breaking down walls, but in building the right ones? What if Nietzsche's most radical insight, that self-imposed limitations create the very space where authentic freedom can flourish, is exactly what you need to hear at this stage of your life? You see, at 60 and beyond, you're not just older, you're standing at the threshold of a unique form of wisdom. Your brain has developed neural pathways that younger minds simply don't possess. Your experience has given you a perspective that cuts through the noise of modern life. Yet somehow, you might still feel trapped by invisible chains, overthinking that spirals into paralysis, loneliness that deepens despite being surrounded by people, manipulation that you can sense but can't seem to escape. But what if these very struggles are pointing you towards something revolutionary? What if the solution isn't more freedom, but the right kind of boundaries? What if the German philosopher who declared, "God is dead," also discovered the secret to being truly alive? This isn't just another self-help fantasy. This is about understanding a fundamental law of human psychology that becomes even more powerful as you age. This is about discovering why boundaries, the right boundaries, don't limit you. They liberate you. Before we dive deeper into this life-changing revelation, take a moment to subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. You're about to discover something that could fundamentally shift how you experience the rest of your life. The journey we're about to take together will challenge everything you thought you knew about freedom, control, and what it truly means to be alive at 60 and beyond. The truth is, you've been living under a massive psychological illusion, one that has been carefully constructed by a culture that profits from your confusion. This illusion whispers that freedom means having no limits, that happiness comes from endless options, that wisdom is about breaking down every barrier in your path. But Friedrich Nietzsche saw through this deception over a century ago. Nietzsche understood something that modern psychology has only recently begun to grasp. The human mind doesn't thrive in unlimited space. It thrives within meaningful constraints. He called this the creative constraint, the idea that our greatest achievements, our deepest satisfaction, and our most authentic selves emerge not from boundless freedom, but from the intelligent application of self-imposed limitations. Think about it through the lens of what psychologists now call choice overload. Barry Schwartz's research reveals that when we're faced with too many options, our brains don't celebrate, they freeze. We become paralyzed, anxious, and ultimately dissatisfied with whatever choice we make. This isn't just about picking breakfast cereal. This is about the fundamental structure of how your mind processes reality. Carl Jung, the great depth psychologist, took this insight even further. He observed that the second half of life, your current stage, requires a completely different approach to existence. While the first half is about expansion, exploration, and accumulation, the second half is about integration, meaning, and what he called individuation. This process doesn't happen through unlimited freedom. It happens through conscious limitation. But here's where the modern world has betrayed you. It has sold you the myth that more is always better, that keeping your options open is always wise, that saying yes to everything is the path to fulfillment. This myth becomes particularly toxic as you age because it prevents you from accessing the unique power that comes with maturity. the ability to choose consciously what deserves your limited time and energy. Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps and founded logotherapy, discovered that humans don't primarily seek pleasure or power. They seek meaning. And meaning, he realized, always emerges from constraints. The prisoners who survived weren't those who had the most physical freedom, but those who had the strongest internal boundaries, clear values, defined purposes, and the ability to say no to the meaningless suffering while embracing the meaningful struggle. Arthur Schopenhauer, Nietzsche's philosophical predecessor, identified the root of human suffering as what he called the will, an endless, insatiable desire that can never be permanently satisfied. The more options you have, the more your will has to grasp at, and the more you suffer. But Schopenhauer also pointed toward the solution, the conscious restraint of will through wisdom and selective engagement. This is why you might feel more anxious now than you did in your 30s, despite having more resources and experience. Your brain is being constantly overstimulated by choices, possibilities, and expectations that previous generations never faced. Social media tells you about every event you're missing, every opportunity you're not taking, every experience you're not having. This isn't freedom, it's psychological torture. The hidden problem isn't that you lack options. It's that you have too many, and no clear framework for choosing among them. You've been conditioned to believe that keeping every door open is wisdom, when in reality, it's a recipe for exhaustion, confusion, and what psychologists call decision fatigue. But there's something even more insidious at work. The culture of unlimited choice has robbed you of something essential, the deep satisfaction that comes from commitment, from choosing one path and walking it fully, from saying, "This is who I am, and this is what I value, and this is how I will spend my precious remaining time." The philosophers knew this, the psychologists are discovering it, and you're about to experience it firsthand. What you're experiencing right now, that subtle but persistent sense of being overwhelmed, that nagging feeling that you're somehow falling behind, that quiet desperation that comes from having too many possibilities and not enough direction, these aren't personal failures. They're the invisible consequences of living in a world that has forgotten the wisdom of boundaries. Let's start with your brain. Neuroscience reveals that decision-making depletes a finite resource called glucose. Every choice you make, from what to wear to how to spend your afternoon, draws from the same mental energy pool. By the time you're 60, you've made millions of decisions, and your brain has developed what researchers call decision fatigue, a state where the sheer volume of choices degrades your ability to make good ones. But here's the cruel irony. Just as your brain becomes more sensitive to choice overload, modern life presents you with more options than ever. Dating apps with thousands of potential partners, Netflix with thousands of shows, investment options, retirement plans, health choices, travel destinations, all demanding your attention, all claiming to be essential to your happiness. This creates what psychologists call the paradox of choice anxiety. You become paralyzed not by lack of options, but by their abundance. You spend so much mental energy keeping track of possibilities that you have no energy left to actually live. You're constantly wondering if you're missing out on something better, something more fulfilling, something that would make you feel complete. The cognitive load of unlimited choice is literally rewiring your brain in ways that make contentment impossible. When you're always evaluating alternatives, you can never fully commit to your current experience. When you're always keeping your options open, you can never dive deep into any single option. This creates a state of perpetual shallow engagement with life. You're always half present, half committed, half satisfied. But the consequences go deeper than just mental fatigue. This choice overload is systematically destroying your ability to form meaningful relationships. Think about it. When you believe you should keep your options open, you never fully invest in the people who are already in your life. You're always wondering about the conversations you're not having, the connections you're not making, the experiences you're not sharing. This manifests in what sociologists call social media paralysis. The phenomenon where exposure to everyone else's highlights makes you feel like your own life is somehow insufficient. You see friends traveling to exotic locations, trying new hobbies, meeting new people, and instead of feeling happy for them, you feel inadequate. You feel like you should be doing more, being more, experiencing more. The tragedy is that this constant comparison and option evaluation prevents you from experiencing the deep satisfaction that comes from fully inhabiting your own life. You're so busy looking at other possibilities that you never fully engage with your current reality. You're so afraid of missing out that you're missing out on the life you're actually living. This creates a vicious cycle. The more options you try to keep track of, the more scattered your attention becomes. The more scattered your attention, the less satisfaction you derive from any single experience. The less satisfaction you feel, the more you convince yourself that you need more options, more possibilities, more freedom. Meanwhile, your relationships suffer because you're never fully present. Your personal projects remain half-finished because you're always distracted by new possibilities. Your sense of identity becomes fragmented because you're trying to be everything to everyone. Your peace of mind evaporates because you're constantly second-guessing yourself. The invisible consequence of unlimited choice is that it makes you a stranger to yourself. You become so focused on what you could be doing that you lose touch with who you are. You become so concerned with optimizing your options that you forget to actually live. This isn't just about feeling overwhelmed. This is about the systematic erosion of your capacity for joy, meaning, and authentic connection. And it's happening at precisely the stage of life when you should be experiencing the deepest satisfaction, when you have the wisdom to know what truly matters and the freedom to pursue it. The revolution begins with a single word: no. But this isn't just any no. This is what Nietzsche called the sacred no. The boundary that creates space for what truly matters. At 60 and beyond, you have something that younger people don't: the authority of experience. You know what doesn't work. You've tried enough paths to recognize the dead ends. Now it's time to use that wisdom as a weapon of liberation. Here's the counterintuitive truth that will change everything. The people who seem most free aren't those with the most options. They're those with the clearest boundaries. They've learned to say no to good things so they can say yes to great things. They've learned to close doors so they can walk through the right ones with complete commitment. Consider Warren Buffett, who at 94 still follows what he calls the 5-25 rule. He tells people to list their top 25 goals, then circle the top 5. But here's the revolutionary part. The remaining 20 don't become maybe later goals. They become never goals. They become conscious boundaries that protect your focus and energy for what truly matters. This is what Nietzsche meant when he wrote about amor fati, love of fate. It's not about accepting whatever happens to you. It's about making conscious choices about what you'll allow into your life, then loving those choices completely. It's about recognizing that freedom isn't about having endless options. It's about having the power to eliminate the wrong options so you can fully embrace the right ones. The ancient Stoics understood this intuitively. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his Meditations at age 60, spoke constantly about the power of focused attention and conscious limitation. He knew that the emperor who tried to control everything controlled nothing, while the emperor who consciously limited his focus could achieve remarkable things. But let's make this practical. Start with what psychologists call energy boundaries. Look at your typical day and identify the activities that drain you without giving anything meaningful back. These aren't just obviously negative things. They're often neutral activities that you've said yes to out of habit or social pressure. The committee you joined years ago, the social events you attend out of obligation, the news consumption that leaves you anxious but not informed. Create what researchers call implementation intentions, specific rules about what you will and won't do. Instead of saying, "I'll try to be more selective," say, "I will only check social media twice a day for 15 minutes each time." Instead of, "I should probably exercise more," say, I will walk for 30 minutes every morning before breakfast. The power of these boundaries isn't just in what they exclude, it's in what they make possible. When you stop trying to keep up with every news cycle, you create space for deep reading. When you stop attending every social event, you create space for meaningful conversations with close friends. When you stop pursuing every opportunity, you create space for mastery and expertise. This is what Viktor Frankl called self-transcendence, the ability to rise above immediate impulses and choose your response based on your deepest values. But this transcendence doesn't happen in unlimited space. It happens within conscious constraints that you've chosen because they serve your highest purposes. The rebellion isn't about becoming antisocial or rigid. It's about becoming discriminating. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are finite resources that deserve to be invested, not spent. It's about understanding that every yes is also a no to something else, so you might as well make those no's conscious and strategic. Start today. Choose one area of your life where you've been trying to keep too many options open. Make a decision. Close a door. Say no to something good so you can say yes to something great. Notice how this feels, not restrictive, but liberating, not limiting, but focusing. This is the beginning of true freedom. This is Nietzsche's law in action. Here's the ultimate truth that will redefine everything. You are not your possibilities. You are your choices. At 60 and beyond, you've reached the stage of life where this distinction becomes not just important, but essential. The young person dreams of infinite potential. The wise person actualizes finite power. Nietzsche's greatest insight wasn't about the death of God or the will to power. It was about what he called eternal recurrence. He asked, if you had to live your exact life over again infinite times, would you choose it? The question isn't really about repetition. It's about the quality of conscious choice. It's about living so deliberately, so authentically, so fully committed to your decisions that you could embrace them eternally. This is the secret that transforms everything. When you stop trying to optimize your options and start optimizing your choices, you discover something remarkable. You discover that limitation is not the enemy of creativity. It's the foundation of it. The poet doesn't write better when given infinite words. They write better when given a sonnet's strict structure. The artist doesn't create better with unlimited canvas. They create better with conscious constraints. Your life at 60 plus is not about maintaining maximum flexibility. It's about achieving maximum depth. It's about recognizing that you have enough experience to know what truly nourishes you, enough wisdom to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important, enough courage to bet everything on what you believe matters most. The paradox resolves itself completely. Boundaries don't limit your freedom, they concentrate it. When you consciously choose what to say no to, you exponentially increase the power of your yes. When you deliberately close certain doors, you can walk through the open ones with complete commitment. When you stop trying to be everything to everyone, you can be authentically yourself to the people who matter most. This is what psychologists call selective optimization with compensation, the ability to choose fewer things but engage with them more deeply. It's what happens when you realize that your diminishing energy isn't a problem to be solved, but a resource to be invested wisely. It's what transforms the supposed limitations of aging into the actual advantages of wisdom. Think about the people you most admire in their later years. They're not the ones with the most options. They're the ones with the clearest focus. They've learned to say no to the noise so they can say yes to the signal. They've learned to eliminate the trivial so they can amplify the essential. They've learned that freedom isn't about having every choice. It's about making the right choices and then living them fully. This is your invitation to join their ranks. This is your opportunity to stop being a victim of unlimited options and start being a master of conscious choice. This is your chance to discover that the boundaries you feared would imprison you are actually the keys to your liberation. The ultimate truth is this: you are not here to experience everything. You are here to experience the things that matter to you, fully and completely. You are not here to keep every door open. You are here to choose the right doors and walk through them with complete commitment. You are not here to maximize your options. You are here to optimize your choices. At 60 and beyond, you have the wisdom to know what truly matters and the courage to eliminate what doesn't. You have the experience to distinguish between what's merely possible and what's genuinely meaningful. You have the authority to set boundaries that serve your highest purposes and the freedom to live within them joyfully. This is Nietzsche's law in its fullest expression. Boundaries equal freedom, limitations create possibilities, and conscious constraints become the foundation of authentic liberation. This is how you transform the second half of your life from a series of diminishing options into a masterpiece of conscious choice. Welcome to your rebellion. Welcome to your freedom. Welcome to the rest of your life lived deliberately and without apology. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share one boundary you're ready to set in your own life. What will you say no to so you can say yes to what truly matters? Your journey toward conscious freedom starts with that first brave choice. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Let's continue this conversation about living authentically at 60 and beyond.